the numbers we save people sometimes are staggering. So we saved a customer a couple of weeks ago, and her reviews on Trustpilot, you can read it, $8,000 on her electricity. You just got to wonder what policy she was on, residential customer, that we were able to...
And what she was running at home.
Yeah, I did wonder about that. I did wonder what's going on in the garage there.
Check the roof. On this episode of The Unicorns, I sit down with Emma Fawcett, the newly appointed CEO of Compare Club, one of Australia's most trusted comparison services. With more than 20 years of leadership across organisations like MYOB and News Corp, Emma steps into the role at a pivotal time as Compare Club scales its mission to help Australians make smarter decisions on their biggest household bills. Our conversation explores the evolution of comparison platforms in a rapidly changing market and how Compare Club is reshaping the way consumers approach life insurance, health insurance, energy, and home loans. We unpack why transparency and advocacy matter more than ever and how the business has built trust through expert guidance, genuine savings, and more than 6,000 five-star reviews. Emma also shares her vision for the next 3 years, balancing technology and AI with human expertise, while leading a brand that sits at the intersection of finance, technology, and consumer empowerment. We examine how Compare Club supports Australians to overcome the real barriers to switching, from time pressures to decision fatigue, in the face of rising living costs. And beyond the boardroom, Emma opens up on leadership, parenthood, the realities of operating in a highly regulated sector, and what it truly means to advocate for consumers while driving sustainable growth. Emma Fawcett, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
You're new to the role of CEO of Compare Club. You've joined the business at a great time of growth. I'm keen to know more about your professional background and what you were doing before you took over the hot seat at Compare Club.
Thank you. Before I took over the hot seat at Compare Club, I was actually running the small business arm of MYOB, so accounting software. And then prior to that, I was an executive at News Corp, so I looked after all the commercial products and platforms for News Corp.
And had you heard of Compare Club before you joined the business?
No, I haven't. I actually think it's one of Australia's best kept secrets. And I wish I had heard of it, because earlier this year I did compare and switch all my insurances, and it took me a very long time, and Compare Club could have saved me a lot of time with that.
What was that process like when you actually tried to jump on and change and swap things around? How did you find that experience?
Very time consuming. And I really had to gear myself up for it. I had worked full time for a very long time. I have 3 kids. I'm fairly busy. And every time I got a renewal notice or an electricity bill or saw my mortgage payment, I thought I really need to do something about this, but I just never seemed to have the time. And at the start of this year, I'd finished up from MYOB. I decided to take 6 months off. And one day I thought, right, this week I'm going to do a bit of life admin. I called it can I swear on this program?
You can, go for it, yes.
I called it a get shit done day, and it was time consuming. I had to go and hunt all my policies out. They're all over the year. I had to get my mortgage details out. I had to get my electricity bill. And I sat there one day and sort of shopped around, going from insurer to insurer online, having to talk to them, getting comparative quotes, then calling my existing provider. Very worthwhile. All in all, I saved $12,000 that day. Yep, $12,000.
How did you?
I had never compared. I was one of those customers that insurance companies and people in general love. I just rolled over every year and never considered it. And things like with my car insurance, I stayed with the existing provider, but I said, you got to do me a better deal. It's doubled with the same car and over a course of years. And they said, well, does anyone under 18 drive? And I was like, no. And she's like, oh, I can half the policy. So I just think my life had changed so much in that time, because I can see that 10 years ago there probably was an 18-year-old driving. Same with my mortgage. Just even ringing and querying with my bank got me a half a percentage point discount. So, but very time consuming. Like it did take me the whole day. I was very satisfied at the end of the day. Took myself to the shops and spent some of the savings. But very
good for you.
Very time consuming.
Do you think that's part of the reason why people just don't do it, don't compare?
Yeah, I think it's apathy. I think it's on our long list of shoulds. I think we're very busy these days. Most people, have families with 2 people working to pay the mortgage or single parents, and I just think time escapes them. I think it's on the long list of shoulds. Like I should go to the gym. I should, tidy my garden. I should really do a deep clean of my house. I should compare and get organised with my finances, and we just don't.
Did you feel awkward in any way when you were actually asking the provider, the supplier, for a better deal?
Oh, God, no.
No.
I'm negotiating with people all day at work. Sometimes I said to the people, I feel sorry that you got me today because I'm getting a better deal one way or another out of this call. So no qualms whatsoever. You got to go in confident.
Yeah, good. Okay. So for those that are not familiar with Compare Club, the business, tell us about what it does, how it works, and how it actually helps consumers save money.
Yeah, so Compare Club, and I think my experience actually really opened me up to this role when I did get a tap on the shoulder about it, having just gone through that experience and realising how much money I was leaving on the table really opened me up to this. But Compare Club, essentially, I would call it Australia's premier comparison service. We are independently owned. We have expert human advice. We have smart digital tools, and we can help Australians save a lot of money, or I should say find the right value for them across some really complicated products, be it life insurance, health insurance, home loans, energy or travel insurance. We help Australians find the right policy for them in those areas, and we do it really easily and quickly. We do it via a phone call, and we can compare for you, and we take all that legwork that I spent a whole day doing. We do that for you, and we can switch you at the end.
So you're like a concierge service.
Yeah, I've been thinking, I'm only 3 months in the role, I've been thinking about how to position the business, and I think there is really something nice about that idea of a financial concierge or a financial assistant. Like we want to have your back and be doing the hard legwork for you independently and providing you the right policy. And I will mention at this point, it's not always about saving money either. Sometimes I listen to a lot of calls and read a lot of our digital interactions. Sometimes the right policy for a person in health insurance or life insurance might be a more expensive policy if their lifestyle has changed. One call that came to my attention was a young family who actually needed to upweight their policy because their child was sick.
Okay.
And for them, value was peace of mind, knowing that in any circumstance they could take their child to hospital and they were covered. So it's often about saving money, but it's not always about saving money. Sometimes it's really about that peace of mind. I've got a special circumstance and I don't have the confidence to find the right policy for myself, so I'm coming to you as an expert to do that for me.
So if I'm listening to this podcast, Emma, and I've never used Compare Club, what is the workflow of from I should really do this to it's a phone call, you're actually talking to someone based here.
Yep.
How does that work? Explain that to us.
Yep. So we've got, as I said, we're a pretty big business. We're about 600 people, a lot of them experts in each of those areas. So insurance brokers, mortgage brokers, so very well qualified people. But the experience generally starts online. People are driven online to search for, better value insurance in some way, and they'll often see an ad for us. We have over 6,000 5-star Trustpilot reviews, so often that pops up and people go, oh, Compare Club, I feel like I can trust that. Look at all these positive reviews. Lots of word of mouth referral too from people who've used our service. And then you'll generally come online, pop some details in online, pop your phone number in, and we get one of our human experts based in Australia to give you a call and talk you through it. We do offer some completely digital services, but that human element is actually really important because sometimes it's teasing out the details. Yeah. You might think that your dodgy knee knee is not worth mentioning for health insurance, but we know from our years of experience that you might need a knee reconstruction, so you might want to consider that in your policy. So it's the human interaction, whether it be for life, health or mortgage, to really tease out the life circumstances that you might not think or want to enter into an online form. And that's how we work. It's generally done in a phone call pretty quickly. Things like life insurance and mortgages can obviously take longer, but you engage with us and you leave it with us and we do all the legwork for you and come back with the best option for you.
And so if I wanted to, say, for example, change energy providers, how long does that normally take?
That's our fastest one because of the regulation around that makes it far more transparent and comparable. So we can do that very quickly in a phone call, sometimes as little as 10 minutes, and you can be done. And we have all the major energy providers on our panel, as well as a lot of green energy providers. So again, figuring out what's important. Some consumers are really passionate about green energy and we have a good mix of providers there. But yeah, energy can be done really quickly in your lunch break or even while you get a coffee, I imagine.
But it's literally you can do it in a day. Switch providers and you're done.
Yep, and then there's always a bit of follow-up, paperwork, changeover. Yes. But yeah, broadly speaking, yep.
And so you've been in the business now for 3 months. What do you like about what you've found, what you see?
I did a lot of mystery shopping when I was considering the role, and I met a lot of the team. And what I really liked, probably because I just switched myself around, was that in quite a few areas where I used Compare Club and they didn't know who I was and mystery shopped, I got told after spending a good 20 minutes with me on my health insurance, the lovely Carlos I spoke to, who's in our team, was like, Emma, I honestly think this is the best policy for you. Like, I wouldn't recommend any switching. This, based on your circumstances and what you've said, this feels like the right policy for you for at least 2-3 years. You might want to give us a call back then. And I thought, what an amazing business where we really seem to put the consumer and that relationship and the trust first. There was no hard sell. The experience was great. So I love that. I'm very customer first, and I love that we genuinely, put the customer first. Love that we want to help people. Like, who doesn't want to help people save money every day? Like, I try and choose roles that have a positive impact in the world, and I feel like here we help hundreds of thousands of people a year often save money or get that peace of mind. Like, amazing. I can wake up every day and put in 12 hours feeling like I'm making a difference.
And so where would you like to take the business? I know it's only early, but where is your vision? What is your vision for the future of Compare Club?
Well, I'd like to make the brand a lot more well-known because, as I said, I hadn't heard of us in all transparency when I got the call about this role. But as I moved further into the process and was able to talk about it, I had a few acquaintances, friends go, oh, Compare Club. I love Compare Club. I use them for everything. And I was like, wow, this is like a really well-kept secret. It's a thing. So, but we need to build that brand and create a bit more awareness. So we are going to look at how we make, stop it being a best-kept secret and make it more of a well-known secret. I think there's great power in building our brand a bit more. I'm making big investments in product and technology. I think we have a huge amount of insight into what people need, and I think we can build really smart tooling around that so that people can engage with us in different ways, create that really seamless connection between expert human and busy person on the go, trying to solve that I'm apathetic and I don't have time. How do I make it quicker and easier so more consumers want to try the service? And if I go forward sort of 3 years, when people think, God, this bill, or, oh, I know I should change my health insurance, I want them to think Compare Club, and I want to be the place. We are independent, we are genuinely for customers, and I want everyone to know about us.
So outside of work, you're a mum of 3, you live in Melbourne and work in Sydney.
Yeah.
So how on earth do you juggle all of that and show up and be present in all of those roles, both as CEO of a big business, but also running a busy family?
Yep. I will answer that question, JK, on one condition.
Yes, tell me.
Which is if you have men on this podcast who travel, are high-flying executives and have families, you have to promise to ask them the same question.
I will.
Because it's a little bit gendered. So I'll answer it. The answer is the same as every executive I've ever worked with. I've led or sat on 3 executive teams now, and with the exception of one executive, and I was thinking about this the other day, I've probably worked with 30 executives. Everyone has a supportive partner at home. So I'm no different. My husband has very flexible work, didn't work for 10 years, and probably does 90% of the household chores and the children stuff. I kind of skate in, create a bit of chaos. I'm the fun parent.
Mum's home.
Skate out and leave the dishes and the clothes and the dog poo and everything for him to do. So I do very little around the house is the honest answer. I don't really believe in work-life balance. I think that's a bit of a myth, this idea, and I think you'll kill yourself trying to achieve balance. I think you have to have work-life focus, which means there's times when you're like, right, I've said to my family in the first 6 months of this role, it's all about work while I get to know the business and all of the people and set the strategy and make the right investment choices. But there'll be sometimes when it's all about the kids. So I had a child starting Year 7 this year, and that was a big moment for him. So it was all about him sort of for the first month. So it's just figuring out what needs your attention and saying to the other party if needed, my attention needs to be here now. So I think over the year I achieved pretty good balance, but it's not always at the same time, and I don't even try to have balance every week as long as it's working itself out over a quarter.
And that's the main thing. So long as, at home and at work, somehow it all comes together and it appears to be working.
The one executive that's the exception to that rule that I just was in awe of was the chief marketing officer I worked with at MYOB. He was a chief marketing officer and his wife was a chief marketing officer, and both of them travelled and they had kids, and I just have like all credit. He's the exception.
Yes.
He's the only executive I've ever worked with where the partner didn't either work part-time or stay home, and I think if you strive for these big jobs, that's a reality. You are going to need a really big support network or a supportive partner to make it. They take they're demanding jobs and they take a lot of energy.
Okay. So if you look at the competitive landscape in which Compare Club operates, obviously there are a number of financial comparison websites out there, obviously broader than that. Can you explain what the current landscape looks like, and what is it in your mind that makes Compare Club stand out from the crowd?
I think, and again, learning this 3 months in, Australia feels like a very interesting market as far as comparison goes. We have some categories like energy and health where it's easy for people like us to provide comparison. The government and regulatory bodies have made it so and helped create, I guess, a level playing field. And then we have some categories like car and general insurance that are really opaque, and there's not the same kind of transparent requirements around it. And when you look across our landscape and consider that each of those might be monitored or governed by a different body, you just end up with a really complex environment, so that if anyone is sitting there trying to do all of the comparisons at once, it's really bloody hard. So I think Compare Club and other comparators, there are other comparison services that do a good job. I think we play a really important role, and I think choice in any industry is great. You've got to have choice. I would love a monopoly, but it's not sensible. So I think you've got to have choice. We all play a different role. Why we're different, we're independently owned, and I would really encourage Australians to look at the ownership of comparison sites. Not all comparison sites are independently owned, and some of them are very involved with insurance companies, which I think creates a bit of a conflict of interest.
Definitely a bit of a grey zone there, Emma. I don't think the punters of Australia would probably have any idea about that.
And I'm not suggesting that they're doing anything incorrect. And I don't know that the average punter cares. And to be honest, if more people started the journey of comparison, we'd be better off.
Just get in the game.
Just get in there. Choose Compare Club, but at least do some form of comparison.
Be thinking about, shopping around.
Yes. Yeah, just don't pay that premium every year or accept that. At the very least, put a call into your existing insurer and be a bit pushy and, try there. But come to Compare Club. Use the experts in the area first. Make that call.
They can be pushy for you.
Yes. Well, why do it yourself?
So I want to quickly ask you about AI. It's everywhere. I'm certain you have encountered artificial intelligence in all of your in all of your roles. How are you addressing, tackling, leaning into AI and everything that concerns itself with that emerging technology?
Yeah, I've got a bit of experience with that from my past role. I used AI very successfully, both from a customer service perspective and also a product perspective. Accounting is ripe for AI. It's all data and tables and very easy to surface and use. I think similarly, we're in a great position to harness AI. We have lots of unique insight into our different categories that we operate in, and we can use all those insights to power really smart AI tools that ultimately will create a better customer experience, shorten that time for comparison, and make switching easier. So I think things like where you do need, say mortgages, there's forms, so many forms
I
with
hate
mortgages.
forms.
Life insurance, you might have to have medicals, like there's complexity.
Yep.
Imagine smart AI tooling that pre-populates a lot of those forms. So when they come to you, you're just signing and we haven't had to populate them. So just lots of efficiency. So number one is efficiency. Number two is that customer experience, using AI to deliver a better customer experience. And then three is how do we feed the AI platforms too? Because one of the interesting things I thought about this role was, when I was considering it was, are people going to go to AI and do comparison? Like, is that going to be a thing? Now, I've spent a bit of time looking to that, and I think undoubtedly, people will ask ChatGPT, what should I do about my mortgage? Those are very, very limited in terms of what they can offer. The regulatory and compliance environments means that their comparison is only ever going to be very surface level and web driven. But I'm interested in how companies like Compare Club could potentially help them to do better comparisons. So I think there's plenty of opportunity with AI here, and it's a really interesting space for us to be in, and it'll be super interesting to see how these platforms progress over the next 3 to 5 years.
Especially if you're saying that it can speed things up from a consumer's perspective, because you got to strike while that iron is hot, don't you?
I haven't got a huge amount of wins from Compare Club in 3 months yet, but at MYOB, smart use of AI improved our customer satisfaction rate from 56% to 81% in post service, so onboarding and support. And that's really complicated software, payroll questions, things like that. So we got like a 30 percentage point improvement through using AI to make sure that our human beings were giving the right answers all the times, that we were preempting customer problems. If we saw you'd done something wrong in the software, rather than waiting for you to call us, we would preempt with something and say, hey, JK, I'm not sure you're using the software in the right way.
Sharpen up.
And 30 percentage points. So I hope we've already got a huge amount of satisfied customers here. As I said, 6,000 5-star Trustpilot reviews, but I reckon AI can help us get that to 10,000.
Let's talk about the cost of living crisis. We're all facing bills. Bills are going up. Things are getting more expensive. What can we do about it, if anything?
And I was reading while I was stuck on the tarmac at Melbourne Airport for an hour today. I don't know if you've seen the AFR this morning, but inflation's run away again in the latest numbers.
Yes.
And it's being driven by a breathtaking 37% annual increase in electricity prices. 37%.
It's a lot.
Now, that's something that no household can get away from unless you're a freeloader kid in your 20s living at your parents'. You've got to pay that bill if you want lights on. Yeah,
yes.
I'm not there yet. I'm a few years away from having freeloaders. I'm still legally responsible for my children for a while longer. But electricity, 37%. Like, that just is a bill that has to be paid, and you start to worry about the average Australian family, how they're going to afford the other things that they want to do. And certainly you can see that in Melbourne, where I live, and all the small businesses that are shuttering, because I just think the consumer demand just isn't there. So cost of living, is on my mind a lot. And I think people have a tendency with cost of living to go straight to the little items rather than the big ones. So people will go, I will cut down on a coffee. I won't buy 2 coffees a day, I'll buy 1. Or maybe we'll forego the fish and chip takeaway on a Friday night. But they just don't attack the big bills. They just don't go, where is my money going? Well, my mortgage, electricity's gone up by 37%. let's try and save money on those. And I think it's weirdly inverse. And I think I've been pondering it for a while. And I think it's got to do with control. Like, it feels easier to control and feel like you're doing something, not getting the Friday night fish and chips or not buying the coffee because of that. But I could make a mistake with my mortgage. I could, it's hard, it's complex, it's going to take more time.
And there's paperwork.
Oh, the paperwork. Yeah,
the admin.
I hate the paperwork.
Yes. So do you think that's why many people just don't switch and save?
100%.
Yep.
I think it's that. I think it's we are creatures of comfort. We drive the same way to work. We walk the dog the same route. We visit the same coffee shop. Most of us will go into the same toilet cubicle at work. Like, we are creatures of habit. And I think we get that renewal and think I should do something about this, but just don't, because it's a little bit of the fear of I could make the wrong choice. You don't want to make the wrong choice with life insurance,
of course,
which is a huge vertical for us.
Health insurance.
Or health insurance, or your mortgage, which is why we focus on those really complex areas for you and have proper experts like mortgage brokers and life insurance brokers who can help you with that and demystify that a little bit. But I think it's apathy. I think it's mental fatigue. I think it's being so busy that it goes on that should list, and everyone's got a long should list.
It should be on the to-do list for 2026.
Yeah, we should start, JK, a Get Shit Done Day nationwide, and every employer should give their employees the afternoon off to save money and switch.
I'm a fan.
Instead of giving them a pay rise, maybe I'll start that at Compare Club.
Sure, people will be very interested in that.
I'm joking for any employers listening to this, by the way.
Tell me, how do you balance your commercial relationships with your suppliers, providers, while still sort of going into bat for the consumers, the punters?
The commercial relationships and consumer one is a really interesting point, JK, and it's something in my first 3 months I've really taken upon myself. So I have been out, we have dozens and dozens of partners, and I have been out and met most of them. I think I've only got a handful left to meet after my first 3 months, to express my appreciation for the partnership, understand from their perspective the role that we play, and understand what's important to them. But how I guess we balance the needs and wants of those partners with consumers is to be, and I have made no apologies for this with partners, that we will be customer centric first. If someone contacts us and they are not on the right plan, and again, it could be peace of mind, it could be value for money, it's not always saving money, but we have a duty of care to move them to the right plan that's best for them right now. But as I said, one of the things I liked about this business is that very often if you are on the right plan, we just won't switch you for the sake of it. We probably could, but we don't. We tell you that you're on the right plan. And I think as long as we continue to do the right thing for customers will advocate for us, more customers come to us, and then the insurance see more value from us because ultimately we're delivering them more customers. The attitude of most of our partners is we're a very important part of their distribution network because we're independent, and if we're recommending them, the customer has great trust that that's the right policy for them. So we have great commercial relationships, but for me, it's always going to be customer and consumer first, and I think they appreciate that.
Health insurance is one of the most popular categories to compare, despite it being a very complex product. Why is that?
Yeah, it has got high comparison penetration here. I think you sort of nailed it. It's government regulated, so there is consistency around the product in terms of the base tiers and extras packages and things like that. So insurers have to be very upfront with what they offer and make it easy for people to compare. There is the link to the tax scheme as well. So that also adds a degree of complexity, right? It feeds into your tax and how all that works. And then it also changes over your life stage. So the cover that you have as a single person, footloose and fancy free, versus a married person versus, oh my God, we've got 3 kids and they all need braces within a 2-year period, versus, oh, now the kids have grown up and I'm not paying for them anymore, versus, okay, now I'm getting older and I need to start considering heart disease and other treatments.
And dodgy knees.
Yes. It changes. So that changing nature means that most people realise that, and so every few years they need to go and look at their health insurance, which drives if they've had a good experience with a provider like Compare Club, they come back, which sort of drives that overall rate of comparison up. So that would be my answer. I just think complex product, somewhat regulated, has ties into government structure and policy, and then changing. It changes a lot more. You think about your energy needs, probably change a couple of times over your life, maybe when you downsize or upsize, all the kids leave home and are
100%.
leaving all the lights on all the time. But your health insurance, more than anything, your needs are going to change significantly over your lifetime.
I know it's different for every single consumer, but how much money could people genuinely save if they're on the wrong policy and then they got something that was fit for purpose, whether it's health insurance or energy? What sort of numbers, Emma, are we talking about?
I think with health we average out at about $500, and I think with energy it's about $300. And often with life insurance, to be honest, people are coming to us for their first policy, so it's not necessarily always a saving. But the numbers we save people sometimes are staggering. So we saved a customer a couple of weeks ago, and her reviews on Trustpilot, you can read it, $8,000 on her electricity. You just got to wonder what policy she was on, residential customer that we were able to...
And what she was running at home.
Yeah, I did wonder about that. I did wonder what's going on in the garage there.
Check the roof.
Yeah, but $8,000. And then we had another customer the other day who did their electricity, their mortgage and their health insurance with us, and her savings were about $3,500 across the year. So you're talking $8,000 is a family holiday. Like you're talking...
So much.
Very significant money.
And also paying for things that they don't need.
Yeah, paying for things you don't need is a big one. We see lots of, how do I phrase it? People in the later years of their life still paying for pregnancy cover, for instance. And it's funny when you hear sometimes our insurance brokers talking to someone and being like, "You're 65, do you think you still need pregnancy cover?" And you think, God, you probably didn't need that 20 years ago, but you've been paying for it all that time.
And I suppose it comes down to actually reading the policy, checking your bills.
And that's what some of the investment that I want to make when I mentioned investment in product and technology was really how do we move beyond just finding you the right policy, but starting to help you get the best out of that. So sort of engaging with you. We have a great app that I encourage everyone to go and download, but engaging with you, JK, through the app and saying, hey, you wanted this policy for all the optical benefits, You've had it 9 months. If you haven't yet gone and got a new set of glasses, you should do that now. Like, how can we help people? We get them on the right policy, but then how can we help them get maximum use out of that policy, not just a set and forget? So that's something that we're actively working on.
Because there's often things, if you talk about health insurance, that at the end of the year, it's hey, you realise you've got as part of your policy all this stuff that you haven't used.
I'm guilty of that. My optometrist will send me a note going, it's been 10 months. Did you want to come in? Yeah, 3 kids, all with braces. I'm at the dentist a lot. So I'm not in any qualms about not using all my dental cover.
Yes. I'm interested in knowing more about other areas of insurance, such as general insurance that isn't featured on Compare Club or any other comparison websites as such. So in health, you've got all the major funds. They're required to provide data that make comparison possible. But in general insurance, and we're talking about home and contents, car insurance, we can't really compare independently. What's going on? Why is that?
Yeah, it's got to do, I guess, with the way the different, as I said before, every area is regulated and governed a little bit differently, and there are no requirements for car insurance or general insurers to kind of fall into the same product bands or product tiering, or even be transparent about how they price that. So it does make comparing really hard. And if you look at a market like the UK, they do have those requirements, and a lot of general insurance and car insurance is sold by comparison players like us. In fact, I think it's over 70%. Versus here, it's very, very hard for us to offer a comparison service and it's an area that we definitely want to move into. It's on my radar, general insurance, because I just think it's such a big bill for people, and that lack of transparency and consistency makes it incredibly hard for the average person to look at their policy and shop it around. And I want to be able to do that for people. So we are starting conversations with those insurers to be able to do that. And I think it could be an area that the government might want to take a look at as well. We live in a country that is going to be increasingly impacted by natural events, and you see some stories in the media about the skyrocketing insurance prices for people. And when you have a market that's more competitive in comparison, you get more price pressures when people have to be more transparent and there's a baseline similarity. And I would welcome that competition through comparison, and I think the majority of Australians would as well. We recently did some research that showed that those bills in particular were of real concerns to Australians, like how much they're paying for those kind of insurances is a real headache, and they have no way at the moment to go and easily compare. They can't call us and compare. They can't call anyone and compare those insurances independently, and I want to make that happen.
So in the absence of that instrument being available right at the moment, what advice do you have for consumers who want a better deal on general insurance, or at least try to compare or figure out if their policy is fit for purpose?
So I might take it up a level and say, in general, my advice for consumers looking at their household bills would be put something in your calendar once a year. It may be a quieter time of year. Pick a day, end of Jan, end of Feb. Everyone always needs to find some extra money after Christmas, right? Put a day in a diary, block out a couple of hours as you get, grab your policies and things like that. Contact Compare Club for where we can help you, which is health insurance, life insurance, energy, mortgages, and travel insurance if you're having a holiday. Save some money with us, or find the right policy and have that peace of mind with us in those areas. And then with your general insurance and your car insurance, ring your current insurer. Even if the policy isn't due and you're halfway through the year, ring them. Tell them you want a better deal. Have a look at how much you...
Literally
tell them, I want a better deal. I mean, that's what I did. And I said, if you won't give me some kind of saving right now, I will shop around. And I've got all day, and I will ring every insurance company in Australia, and I will find a better deal, and you'll lose me as a customer. And you can see I've been a loyal customer. That was my script. And then they said, well, let us see how we can help you. Most of them will, if you ask, will try. And as I said, in the case of my car insurance, it was taking off the under 18s, pretty much half the price of the policy. And with my home insurance, the trick was pushing up the excess. So I had $1,000 excess, and they said, well, if you could go to a $5,000 excess, we can cut the policy by 30%. And I was like, $5,000, it's fine. Touch wood, nothing happens. But in the event it does, a $5,000 excess doesn't seem unreasonable. So I think start with your current insurer and have that conversation for general and car, and just ask them to do a better deal. And if they won't, be prepared to put your money where your mouth is, and it'll take time, because there's no way to do easy comparison. You're going to have to contact a bunch of insurers and write it all down and try and compare yourself. But I think it's worth the effort. And while you're doing that on the two really hard verticals, we can be doing it in the background for you on the other ones.
Because the flip side is the cost of customer acquisition and new customers far more expensive for an insurer than retaining an existing customer.
It's funny now that I work here, and people talk to you about your work, and then they talk about their experience with insurance companies. There is a real misconception that loyalty matters. People will say to me, oh, I've got an awesome health insurance deal. I haven't changed in 10 years, or I've got a great policy for home insurance. And I said, why do you think it's great? And they said, because I'm loyal. And I said, but do you see, is there ever a line that says loyalty discount? And they're like, well, no. And I said, often the best deals in market are for new customers. But for some, most people still think there's a bit of a loyalty thing, that being a loyal customer counts for something. It does count when you ring up and ask, because insurers would far rather keep you than pay to go acquire a new one. So loyalty does matter for something, but you've got to be prepared to make that call.
I think we've got time for one more question. So I'd like to look ahead to the new year. The festive season is almost upon us. It's often a time when people make New Year's resolutions. I want to get my finances in order, do things differently. So for those that are listening, what is your best advice for making 2026 really count in terms of getting on top of your finances and looking for real savings, better deals, or even better policies?
I thought you were going to ask me for my New Year's resolutions then. I was a little worried.
That's a separate podcast.
Yeah, we can talk about all the times we've set them. I will get healthy. I will tend to my garden. I will eat better. So what I would recommend, I kind of touched on it. I would recommend that every Australian put time in the diary. If you've got a partner, do it together over a bottle of wine. Split the bills and if you're the partner, take life, health, insurance and travel and then outsource it to Compare Club and leave your partner with the general and the car
advice.
Insurance. But no, in all seriousness, I'd put some time in the diary. While it's fresh, I would gather all your policies. I would call Compare Club and let us work for you on the really complicated, tricky ones. We love getting people a better deal on their mortgage. Take your other, maybe it might be your subscriptions, Foxtel, it could be your car insurance, your general insurance, and take the time to actually check. And if you focus where the bulk of your money goes, not on the $6 coffees, it'll be a better outcome and you'll feel so proud of yourself for investing that time. And then you can think about what you're going to do with all the money you've saved.
Emma Fawcett, many thanks for your time today. Best of luck in the new role. We'll be cheering on Compare Club from the sidelines. So we wish you well and we thank you.
No problems. Thanks for having me.